ಓಂ ಜನನೀಂ ಶಾರದಾಂ ದೇವೀಂ ರಾಮಕೃಷ್ಣಂ ಜಗದ್ಗುರುಂ ಪಾದಪದ್ಮೇ ತಯೋ ಸೃತ್ವಾ ಪ್ರಣಮಾಮಿ ಮುಹುರ್ಮುಹುಃ. ಓಂ ಸಹನಾ ಭವತು ಸಹನೌ ಭುನಕ್ತು ಸಹ ವೀರ್ಯಂ ಕರವಾವಹೈ ತೇಜಸ್ವಿನಾವಧೀತಮಸ್ತು ಮಾ ವಿದ್ವಿಷಾವಹೈ. ಓಂ ಶಾಂತಿ ಶಾಂತಿ ಶಾಂತಿ. ಹರಿ ಓಂ. ಓಂ. May Brahman protect us both. May Brahman bestow upon us both the fruit of knowledge. May we both obtain the energy to acquire knowledge. May what we both study reveal the truth. May we cherish no ill will toward each other. Om. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. We are studying the Brahma Upanishad, and it is a dialogue between sage Pippalada and his disciple Shaunaka, who was a householder called Mahashala. And this Brahma Upanishad is dedicated entirely to knowledge. And the text opens with question by this disciple, a very wealthy householder. Mahashala means a person who has a huge mansion with plenty of rooms. But by implication, it also means a person who was accustomed to perform many pujas, what we call in modern language, many pujas. In those days, yajnas, yagas, etc. And that also involves that he was well known as a great householder, because he has become famous by feeding many of the people by giving plenty of dakshina, gifts, to all the Ritviks and perhaps also to poor people, deserving people, because in those days, wealthy householders, they believed in the scriptural teachings that Swarga Kamo Yajetha, one who is desirous of higher happiness. Swarga simply means higher happiness. Higher happiness comes because of punyam. So he was well known, and the purpose of his yajnas, yagas, which is called karma kanda, was completely fulfilled. What was the fulfillment? So we have discussed yesterday, his mind has become pure, chitta shuddhi, and he obtains a lot of punyam, and his mind becomes absolutely concentrated, and he obtains a great faith, like we can say Girish Chandra Ghosh, 5 annas, 1 rupee and 4 annas faith, 125% faith in Sri Ramakrishna's words. That means absolutely having complete faith. Whatever is written in the scriptures is absolutely true. And as a result of all these things, he became endowed with buddhi. What buddhi? In normal language, we call it discrimination. And that is called viveka. We also practice discrimination. But this discrimination is between two worldly things. Whether that dress is better than this dress, that house is better than this house, that job is better than this job, etc., etc. No, here it is what is real, what is unreal, what is permanent, what is impermanent. And how do we know that this person is really doing the discrimination? Because that type of discrimination, which after knowing what is real, does not automatically, without effort, give up what is unreal, such a person is not ready. But if he is a person who knows instantaneously, he doesn't need to think. And this Shaunaka had all these qualifications. In other words, in Shankaracharya's words, Advaita school of philosophy calls such persons Yogya Purusha, Adhikari Purusha. So then he approaches a teacher and then he wants to know the truth and he will meditate until all the doubts of what the teacher had taught are completely removed. And then that is the sign that there are no doubts. If our knowledge is a doubtful knowledge, even 1% doubtful, it doesn't goad us into action. But that which we are convinced, this is 100% real, then we act and react, we think, we imagine according to that. This Shaunaka was such a person. He approached. How did he approach? Vidhivat. That is not written here. We have to take it because this is a very highly condensed type of Upanishad. There are quite a number of Upanishads. Yesterday I mentioned that they are called minor Upanishads. And there are some Sannyasa Upanishads. That is, what is Sannyasa Upanishad? An Upanishad which exclusively devotes itself only to expounding what is called Brahma Vidya, Atma Vidya, Ishvara Sakshatkara, etc. It doesn't deviate here and there. There are other Upanishads, minor Upanishads, like Yoga Upanishads, and they go into greater details about pranayama, asana, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi, etc., etc. So this is one of the most thoroughly condensed type of Brahma Upanishad dealing with knowledge of Brahman. So he wants to realize Brahman. Who? Shaunaka. So he approached, because yesterday as we discussed, without approaching a teacher, can one realize God? No. Our scripture categorically tells us that it is not possible. Then what about people like Sri Ramakrishna? The first phase of Sri Ramakrishna sadhana is without any guru, any scripture, any instruction, purely depending upon his pure intuitive mind. But he had thoroughly surrendered himself to the Divine Mother, and it was what we call intuition, is only the direction of the Divine Mother. There are many descriptions are there. When Sri Ramakrishna first started puja, doing worship in the Divine Mother's temple, and Sri Ramakrishna wholeheartedly prayed, Mother, I know nothing, I am a fool, please teach me. And later on he was reminiscing that Mother used to tell, now you do Achamana, now you do this Nyasa, and then after that you do Manasika Dhyana, then offer Padya, Arghya, Achamana, etc., etc. Now you offer Naivedya. And very soon, within a few months, his initial bhakti, called Gauna Bhakti or Vaidhi Bhakti, had blossomed into Raga Bhakti. What is Raga Bhakti? That which has gone beyond all rules, regulations, and controlling factors. This comes first, that comes next. When Sri Ramakrishna entered naturally, automatically, then he was trying to do step by step, and the last item to be offered is called food offering. And then one day he was telling that I saw the Divine Mother, so immediately she sat down and started eating food. And then Sri Ramakrishna said, no, you can't eat food now, because I have not yet uttered mantra. I have not offered this food for you. And very soon thereafterwards, he lost the distinction between the inner divinity and the external object. Once a cat entered, "Oh, Ma, you want to accept my worship in the form of the cat?" And he had worshipped the cat in the form of offering. The cat cannot brook is Achimana, Padya, Arghya, etc. Instantaneously it wants food. And he offered it. "Mother, please take it." And he had gone even beyond. "Mother, do you want me to take food?" And that is the state most of us are when we sit for puja, that we cannot brook such a heavy delay for prasadam to come. So, this is the process. But here is a person with natural discrimination, natural dispassion, and the only avrutta chakshuhu amrutatvam ichan, that he wanted to become one with the reality. For that he turned his mind inward. Inward means towards the divine light about which we are going to talk. But important point is, you have to approach a teacher according to the sampradaya, Guru Parampara system. That's why many of the gurus, Sadashiva Samarambham, Shankaracharya Madhyamam, Asmadacharya Paryantam, Vande Guru Paramparam, etc., they go on chanting it. That means I am one of them. And as I mentioned also, that why did Sri Ramakrishna need to take sannyasa? He was a born sannyasi, born Paramahamsa. You know, we are all born Paramahamsas. We are all born without any dress. That is what most people think Paramahamsa. But soon we will forget about it. But each soul is potentially divine. So, Sri Ramakrishna was a born sannyasi. He remained a sannyasi. Even after his taking the sannyasa was just a formality. Why formality? Swami Sharadanandaji explains in his great master, Lila Prasanga, that it is to establish this sampradaya. And then he initiated later on his disciples, including Swami Vivekananda, Swami Brahmananda, etc., etc. And that is the Ramakrishna Sampradaya that is coming there. But this Ramakrishna Sampradaya started long back with Brahma, and then after the Brahma came his disciples. Then it came to Vyasa Maharshi and his son Shukadeva. Afterwards, so many had come, but we cannot remember, we don't know historically. Then it came to Gaudapada, then Govinda Bhagavatpada, then Shankaracharya, and he had 4 disciples. But from there it comes to Totapuri, from Totapuri to Sri Ramakrishna, from Sri Ramakrishna the direct disciples, from the direct disciples means monks, monastic disciples. And then from there some people had become sannyasins, and our gurus usually fall into that category. So this is the Guru Parampara we have to remember. Just as we remember our, what is called, family Parampara. I am coming from Vasishtha Gotra, Bharadwaja Gotra, Vishwamitra Gotra, etc., etc. Very interesting. Vishwamitra was not a Brahmana, but he became a, what is called, Brahma Vidya Varishtaha, like Vasishtha, Brahma Gnani. And Vasishtha himself had certified. So Vishwamitra Gotra, so many other Gotras are there. So, why do we remember? Why do we need to remember? Because our mind, whenever it tries to stoop to something which is unworthy of us, if we remember, my forefathers never have done this. So this is what happened. And this Shaunaka also approached Vidhivat, means what? Samit Panihi Shrotriyam Brahmanishnam. This is what is there in the Mundaka Upanishad. We get Samit Panihi means with firewood on his head. What is the symbolism of the firewood? I am there to burn anything you want me to burn. All my bad qualities, all my opinions I formulated earlier, everything that is unspiritual, I am ready to surrender myself to you. Surrender is called burning away completely the egotism, I and mine. So this, what is called dispassion, is only giving up everything automatically as counterproductive to spirituality. That is how he approached. So this is how the Upanishad starts now. And this Upanishad, Brahma Upanishad, gives a complete and clear idea of the nature of the Atman. And this Atman, which we have been studying in the Mandukya Karika, has 4 states of consciousness, Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti, and there is a 4th state which is completely separate. It is not a 4th state, but for the facility of understanding, it is called 4th state, which comprises of all the 3 states. And this Upanishad tells us that at any given time, anybody who is alive, he will be in any one of the 4 states. So, are we in the 4th state at any given time? All the time. What we call my consciousness is a reflection of the original Chaitanya, Brahma Chaitanya, and wherever there is a reflection, there must be an object which needs to be reflected. So there is Brahma and there is Jiva. Jiva, just as a snake can never abide without the real rope. So also Jivatma can never abide without the Paramatma. They will always be there. But that pure consciousness, Chaitanya, when it is reflected in the mirror of our pure mind, that is called Jivatma. So Paramatma, Jivatma 1, mind is 2nd, body is the 3rd, combination of body, mind and this consciousness, that is what is called Jivatma. So Paramatma is always there and there is no way Jivatma can be without Paramatma. There is no way Jagat can be without Paramatma. Remember, Brahman means Sat, Chit and Ananda. Sat means existence. The very existence of the snake is the very existence of the rope. So the existence of both my body, which belongs to the entire world, part of the entire world, and since it is existing, it belongs to Brahman. It is Brahman, only Brahman mistaken through the 3 limiting factors, through the prism of time, space and causation, and that is called Jivatma. So now this disciple had understood all these things, and those wrong notions, who am I, have to be completely burnt, and the carrying of firewood is a symbolism. I am prepared to burn. Of course, physically, the Guru may be performing some yajnas, yagas, but truly speaking, a realized soul doesn't need to do any more yajnas, yagas. But then he does it, not to break the tradition, for the sake of what is called people whose minds have not risen to that. Somebody asked Sri Ramakrishna, why do you need to visit the temple in the Divine Mother, that is Dakshineshwar? Why do you need to bow down? And then he said that I must set an example. If I don't bow down, then you fellows will not even remember the Divine Mother. So they have to set, as if they have to visit the temple, they have to bow down. And Sri Ramakrishna, whenever he used to receive prasadam, he used to take off his chappals and then very reverentially take. This is what we observed in Ramana Maharshi's life also. Once some devotee had brought some prasadam from a Divine Mother's temple, and the devotee informed him, Bhagavan, I have brought this prasadam from Mother's. Immediately, the whole demeanor of Ramana Maharshi had changed. Tears started trickling, his eyes became wet, and he looked at the devotees and said, have you noticed? Mother has come. The prasada is not different from Divine Mother. Like Ganga Devi is not different from the Ganga Jala, like that. So this is the meaning we have to understand. Then what did he do? Having approached Bhagavad Gita, gives us a beautiful protocol. What is that? That the disciple, having approached the Guru, then he has to put some questions. So prashnas have to be put up. How? That he has to serve him, he has to please him, and then he has to put the questions to him. And then only, even though the teacher knows, but he wants to know the real intention of the disciple, the student. So this is how he must have prostrated before him, and the details are not here. He must have been staying there, and then he must have pleased Brahma himself, because here it is none other than a great realized soul, Angirasam. And then Pippalada, he was the Rishi. And then he must have been given permission. Now you put a question. And this is what he does it. Tam Bhagavantam, Pippaladam Apruchat. So he addressed, Hey Bhagavan. Ramana Maharshi also used to be addressed as Bhagavan. What is the Bhagavan? He who is endowed with 6 glorious qualities like Gnana, Bala, Virya, Aishwarya, Vairagya, etc. So, he who has got these 6-fold divine qualities in 100% quantity, he is called Bhagavantam. That means he has become Brahman. Bhagavantam Pippaladam Apruchat. Pruchat means, Pruchami, I am asking. So, Apruchat, he asked, past tense. But whom did he ask? Pippaladam, he is the Rishi. He is Bhagavantam Pippaladam. He is a realized soul. What did he ask? Divye Brahmapure Sampratishtita Bhavanti Katham Srujanti Kasya Yesha Mahima Babhuva Yohi Yesha Mahima Babhuva Kaha Yesha. We will come to the details a little bit later on, very soon. But what is the essence of the question is, I want to know what is my nature. But instead of asking, I have this body, I have this mind, and the body has got so many, what is called indriyas, sense organs of knowledge, sense organs of knowledge, sense organs of activity, and they are run by pranam. Prana is the most important thing. And this is a point we have to keep in mind all the time. Everywhere, so many Upanishads, there is something called Pranopasana. Prana had to be contemplated as Brahman. Why? Because Brahman is called Chaitanyam, pure consciousness. And pure consciousness is everywhere. It is at all times. So even in a dead body, so where there is Sat, dead body is there is Sat is there. So there must be Chit, there must be Ananda. What is lacking in a dead body? Prana is lacking. What is more lacking? Where there is no prana, there is no mind. Prana represents the energy. Energy is not there. Shakti. And where there is no Shakti, the body cannot function. The mind also cannot function. and the prana in its fivefold activity. Prana, apana, vyana, udana, samana. And that keeps the body and mind completely energized, active. So what are we talking about? Pure consciousness is everywhere. Is it there in the corpse? Yes, it is there. And why can't the corpse speak, etc.? Because there is no prana. Where there is no prana, the mind is not there, sense organs are not there, karmendriyas are also not there. So, even though it is there, the instrument through which consciousness can be manifested is completely absent. And that is why what are the sense organs and how are they here? This is what Divye Brahmapure. This is Divya means divine. Here divine means each soul is potentially divine is one meaning. Brahmapuri. Puri means a city or a dwelling place. Since Brahman is most manifest, especially in a human body, this human body is compared to a great temple. In fact, all our temples, of which the Sri Ranganatha temple in Tanjavur is the greatest representation, and it has got 7 what is called walls surrounding it. There are 4 doors, and there is what we call sanctum sanctorum, representing the 7 chakras of a human body. And the sanctum sanctorum is the heart, and in that heart, the divine deity, Hridaya Kamala Madhye Rajitam Nirvikalpam Sadasadikala Bhedaatitam Ekasvarupam. So he is there. And to realize that, we require this. We have to give up one after the other. That is Mooladhara, etc. And ultimately we have to reach the Sahasrara Chakra. And every Hindu temple is completely fashioned, constructed upon the model of the human being. So, if that is the case, how did they do that? Because our ancient rishis had found out this human body is the greatest temple. Because here it is both for bhoga or yoga. The body is the sharira madhyam kalu dharma sadhanam. Dharma includes what we call God realization. So whether we want to realize God, we want to go to Svargaloka, Brahmaloka, or we want to suffer also, this instrument, this Ratha, that is the body, mind complex, B and M complex. That is why in the Katha Upanishad, those who have studied, the body-mind complex is compared to a chariot. Nowadays, you can say it is compared to a car. There must be a driver, and the car must be in fully functional state, and there must be beautiful roads, and there must be an alert driver, and then only the journey becomes very pleasant and in the end very fruitful. That is why it is called Divye Brahmapure. Sampratisthitaha bhavanti. Who establishes or who is manifesting as the mind, as the sense organs, because the whole body is nothing but 5 sense organs and 5 organs of action. Karmendriya, Panchakarmendriya, Panchagnanendriya. There is nothing called body other than these 10. Of course, along with the mind, which is called the 11th Indriya. So, who is manifesting in the form of prana? Who is manifesting in the form of the sense organs and organs of action, etc. And katham srijanti. How these are, what makes these sense organs really make them function? The eye is able to see, the ear is able to hear, etc. and the hand is able to grab, and the leg is able to cover the distance, etc. How do they function? Are they doing it by themselves, or is there somebody who is making it? Kasya esha mahima. Mahima means glory. Glory means whose power. Who is that being whose power? And remember, every Upanishad is reflecting the ideas given by other Upanishads, especially these minor Upanishads. They are not independent Upanishads. That is, they take the essence, but they confine themselves to a particular subject matter, and here the subject matter is Brahma Vidya. Mahima is the glory. Glory means who is manifesting and who is functioning, for whom is this body-mind trying to act, to live in this world, for what purpose? Babuva, kasya esha mahima. This glory that we see, especially when we see a very great person, then we wonder how intelligent he is and how much of knowledge this person possesses and what things he is telling us. And it is a wonder. That is why Sri Ramakrishna had a disciple, and he was completely illiterate. Sri Ramakrishna himself was his guru. An illiterate guru trying to teach an illiterate disciple, you don't need much of intelligence to understand what would be the result. No, I'm just making fun. What is important is, we all believe Sri Ramakrishna is none other than Paramatma himself. Do you think that Sri Ramakrishna was not capable of making? So, an ordinary foolish fellow had become the greatest poet in this world. I'm talking about Kalidasa. His very name Kalidasa is because of the grace of Mother Kali. He had become the greatest poet in the whole world even today. And Mother Saraswati is manifest in the form of Holy Mother. And Swami Adbhutananda served Holy Mother so much. How come that this Adbhutananda was not able to even pronounce properly, and etc.? Because Sri Ramakrishna wanted to declare to the world academic, formal, what we call academic education is not a hindrance for the realization of God. And that is the real reason, not because Sri Ramakrishna was incapable and Latu Maharaj was even more incapable. But Sri Ramakrishna said, in course of time, Veda and Vedanta, that is to say the highest truths, will emerge from your mouth. And truly speaking, Swami Vivekananda had a wonderful conversation. I'm just narrating it. So, Swami Vivekananda returned, and then he did not go to meet Swamiji. He was meditating, and Swamiji himself had to go there. Latu, everybody came to see me. Why did you not come to see me? And Latu Maharaj said, I don't know. You have come from the West. You have acquired some Western disciples, and it must have inflated your ego. So let me see. Anyway, I am busy with Sri Ramakrishna. You do not count. And then some conversation came, not perhaps on that day, some other day. What do you understand? What this Vivekananda had done. That was what Vivekananda declared. And Latu Maharaj, he said, after all, what have you done? What Shankaracharya or Ramanujacharya had not accomplished. In such a way, immediately Swamiji folded his hands and said, you are right, Plato, you are right. So later word, he had turned it into Plato. Really, truly, his conversations, especially there is a beautiful book that is called in Bengali, it is translated, Swami Adbhutananda as we saw him. It only came a few years back from what we call the Madras Math, that is Chennai Matha, it has come. Beautiful translation. Of course, it had been translated in Vedanta Kesari from 1966 onwards. That is okay, absolutely fine. So what are we talking about? That formal education is not necessary. So here, the person, fortunately, he was well-educated person, etc. So the question that is came there, whenever we come across such great people, maybe Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, maybe Kalidasa, maybe Einstein, maybe Beethoven, etc., etc., we have to wonder that if an ordinary human being like this can manifest so much of knowledge and wisdom, then how much potentiality is remaining in a human being? This is what is Kasya Esha Mahima Babhuva, whose glory is that. In fact, the entire 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is devoted Bhagavan, naming, I manifest myself in the form of Arjuna, in the form of the Himalayas, in the form of Ganga Nadi, in the form of the spring season, in the form of the Vyasa, Kapila, etc. The best that we can remember in our Upanishads as well as in the mythologies. So that is what Mahima Babhuva. Yohi Eshaha Mahima Babhuva. And not only he who manifested his glory in the form of this entire universe consisting of Jiva and Jagat, but who himself became. So these words are of deep meaning is there. So when you see a pot made out of clay, then it is not, it is, what is it made up of? Our facile answer will be made up of clay. But the real answer is, it is not made up of anything else excepting clay. It is clay. There is no object called pot. Clay is one object and pot is another object. No. Clay is pot, pot is clay, inside, outside, above, below, everywhere, nothing but clay. Then what is the difference? Clay doesn't have any specific form, any specific purpose. You cannot take a bit of clay and then I want to cook rice and all. No, you cannot do that. You can't, much less you can make masala dosha there. But if you can make a beautiful plate and you can cook food, you can store food, you can eat food, different forms are there. But it is nothing but pure clay in a particular way. So, what is the glory? That is, if we comprise this question, what it means is that what is my nature? Because this is the Advaitic interpretation. The very question is, if I am able to think and if I am able to do so many things, I have so many powers already manifest. Even a baby manifests so many powers. If this is the truth, then what is my nature? What is my potentiality? What can I develop? Whole life, when we go to schools or colleges, it is only to develop what is already inherent within us in the form of a seed, potentiality. So Janma Janmantara, life after life, we go on evolving all our potentialities and using those potentialities in the service of God, and that way our potential divinity in the form of potential talents being used to serve the divine, that is how we approach God. This is the meaning. So for him, Tasmai Sahovacha, the rest of a huge, very big paragraph of answer is there. So I will just go through it just for the sake of just reciting the mantra, such beautiful mantra, and then we will take up the individual meanings. Tasmai Sa Hovacha Brahma Vidyam Varishtham Prano hi Esha Atma Atmano Mahima Babhuva Devanamayu Sa Devanam Nidhanam Anidhanam Divye Brahmapure Virijam Nishkalam Shubhram Aksharam Yad Brahma Vibhati Saniyachati Madhukara Rajanam माक्षिकवत् इति यथा माक्षिक एकेन तन्तुना जालं विक्षिपति तेन अपकर्षति तथा एव एष प्राणो यदा याति संसृष्टम् आकृष्य प्राणदेवताहतः सर्वाः नाड्यः सुष्वप्ते श्येन आकाशवत् यथा खं श्येनमाश्रित्य याति स्वमालयम् एवं सुषुप्तो ब्रूते यथा एव एष देवदत्तो यष्ट्यापि ताड्यमानो न नयत्येव इष्टापूर्तैः शुभ अशुभैः न लिप्यते यथा कुमारो निष्कामः आनन्दमुपयाति तथा एव एष देवदत्तः स्वप्न आनन्दम् अभियाति वेद एव परं ज्योतिः ज्योतिष्कामो ज्योतिरानन्दयते भूयस्तेनैव स्वप्नाय गच्छति जलौकावत् यथा जलौका अग्रम अग्रम नयति आत्मानं नयति परं संधया यत् परं न अपरं त्यजति स जाग्रत् अभिधीयते यथा एव एष कपालाष्टकं संनयति तमेव स्तनैव लम्बते वेद देव योनः यत्र जाग्रति शुभाशुभं निरुक्तम् अस्य देवस्य स संप्रसारो अंतर्यामी खगः कर्कटकः पुष्करः पुरुषः ग्राणः हिंसा पर अपरं ब्रह्म आत्मा देवता वेदयति य एवं वेद स परं ब्रह्म क्षेत्रज्ञम् उपैति. So ultimate sentence is ya evam veda. He who knows what I'm just trying to teach you, O Shaunaka, what does he do? Sa param brahma kshetragnam upaiti. So he becomes brahmagnam and he becomes kshetragna, the knower of the entire universe, knower of the body-mind complex. He becomes param brahma, none other than that. Now we will go, instead of reading the English translation, we will go word by word as I said, and we will try to enjoy it as clearly as possible. Om. Any Upanishad will start Om. This is called Mangala Suchika. That which must begin. What is it? We sat down. Both the teacher as well as the student. And let this journey, that is, the teacher will be start teaching and the student will be observing. Both become successful. And when the teacher finishes the teaching, the student must realize the truth. At least he understands what is the truth, and he sits down and meditates until the last bit of doubt is completely washed off, and then he tries through sadhana and he becomes realized soul. Until, from the beginning of the teaching, until the realization of the student, for the teacher has already realized soul. We have to remember that. Let everything be without any obstacle. That is why we have uttered the Shanti mantra. But Om and Atha, these two are called Mangalikau Ubhao. If you utter Om, that is one of the best auspicious way of beginning. And Atha, remember, many of the, especially the Sutra literature, Brahma Sutra, Yoga Sutra, etc., Atha Yoga Anuशाsanam. This word Atha means, it has many meanings. One meaning is, it is very auspicious beginning. I am praying to God, I am remembering God. There are other meanings. Atha Brahma Jignasa. Ataha Brahma Jignasa. Atha. Now, Atha, therefore, Brahma Jignasa has to be done. This word, Atha, or Om, one of these words we have to utter. And the best is not to have any doubt, utter both the words. Om Tat Saditi Nirdesho Brahmanaha Trividaha Smrataha. These three, Om, Tat, and Sat. And in the 17th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan himself had accepted So if any defect in the performance, in the teaching, whatever it is, these three words will completely complete the process and remove any obstacles and bestows the grace of God, bring us to God and make us become one with Brahman. That is why Om. Shaunaka Havai. Shaunaka, a householder, and he was of Mahashalaha, of fame. So once approached Bhagavan Pippalada, a realized soul, and Angira's family. He belonged to that's why he is called Angirasaha. So what was the question? In this body, known as the divine city of Brahman, and Bhagavad Gita also, those who have studied, Navadvare Pure Dehi Naiva Kurvan Nakarayan. There resides the Atman, Paramatman, in every human body, which is consisting of 9 doors. Pure Naiva Kurvan. He doesn't do anything and he doesn't make anybody else also do anything. That means he is Paripurna. He is full. He is complete by himself. So the question was, in this body, I have this body, I have the mind. But what is important is, I have separated myself, because we don't say that I am the body. If I am the body, then who am I? Question will not arise. If whenever I come to know that I am not the body, I am not the mind, then as a consequence what happens? What is called three avasthas, vilakshanaha, three avastha vilakshanaha, completely separate. There is no relationship at all, not even the subject-object relationship, because they are always together. A relationship means one cannot remain without the other. So if there is object, there is subject, vice versa. If there is no object, there is no subject. If there is no subject, there is no object. But we are all having that kind of identity. I am the subject and I am also the object. But a time will come when we wake up and say, I am neither the knower nor the known. I am neither the subject nor the object, because both are bound. So in this body, this is called divine city. Why is it called divine city? Because potential divinity can be manifested only in this body, and especially in the human body, and especially in those who have developed certain spiritual qualities. So, city of Brahman, it is called Brahman because it is Brahman in the form of Jivatma, Archida, Bhasa, manifesting. It is established. And then, what does it do? It brings along with him, this Jivatma brings along with it all the Karmendriyas, Jnanendriyas, and Panchapranas, nothing else. Karmendriyas, Jnanendriyas, and Panchapranas. That's all. This is called body-mind complex. And then, how does it bring? And how is it made to work? What is the power? Whose power is that? That power is called glory. So how do they create? That means how do these sense organs function? Whose glory does this constitute? That the body is functioning, the mind is functioning, and everything is because everything is a thought, kalpana. That is called the mahima. You see, you read a wonderful book. That is the creation. That is the mahima of some great soul. Because some power is manifesting in the form of that great book and some great scientific knowledge. That is also Bhagavan's mahima. Some person is a great pandit. That is Bhagavan's mahima. Some person, Sri Ramakrishna very often used to say, and that was the reason why he wanted to visit people who are well known in the society, recognized in the society, by the society, as a very great person. Not only spiritually. He can be a great artist or a great social worker, a great drama writer, a great actor, a great singer, a great instrumental player. Ramakrishnas, those who read, or rather those who study the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, they will know this one. In whosoever can sing well, or play well, or many other things, etc., etc. Sri Ramakrishna did not elaborate. Remember, it is all the glory of my Divine Mother. That is what exactly is being said here. Whose glory does this constitute? Who is he who became all this glory? Then what type of question is that? I know that I am not the body mind. I know that I am, but I don't know who I am. Kasyatvam kuta ayataha tatvam chintaya tadiha bhrataha. Bhaja Govindam, this marvelous question comes. Ramana Maharshi always used to ask, find out who you are. So, this was the question. This question itself indicates that the disciple was a learned person. He had studied the Vedas. He must have studied the Karma Kanda because he was doing, how do we know? Because he was well known as a Mahashala. And he must have studied the second portion of the Vedas called Jnana Kanda, or I call it Jnana Bhaga. So that also he has studied. And then he finds out that the scriptures are mentioning about Paramatma again and again. And then ultimately he must have read all the Upanishads. It is not that after coming to Pippalada, he has learned about something called Upanishad, and this is one of the Upanishads. No. He had already studied, but he wants to hear it from the mouth of a realized soul, and that takes on an entirely different, what is called realization. When you hear the same truth from ordinary people, but when you hear the same truth from Sri Ramakrishna or from Swami Vivekananda, then it has a different effect, because the words are the same, but the power through which those words are endowed in the instruments of this great realization, it is God only who is speaking through them. So the question is that how can I realize I am Brahman? I know I am Brahman from the scriptures, and I know all the answers to these questions. I am not asking you that, oh, I never knew about it. Oh, it is the Atma who is manifesting as Prana. It is the Atma who is manifesting as the Prana, as the Karmendriya, as the Gnanendriya, as the body-mind complex, and it is this which is reflecting the Chit in the form of Chidabhasa. I know all these things many times over. I am not asking you that. I am asking you to confirm that does it mean Brahman. So you help me how I can realize Brahman. That is the crux of the matter. Please help me out of your infinite grace how to realize Brahman. That is, I am Brahman. And so is called Mahashala. And then he was called Bhagavan. So the disciple is addressing the Guru as Bhagavan. Many great people have to be worshipped as Bhagavan. What do we say about Thakur? We say Thakur. Thakur means Bhagavan. We say Bhagavan. Om Namo Bhagavate Ramakrishnaya. Whether we call him Sri Ramakrishna as Thakur or Guru Maharaj. What is Guru Maharaj? Guru of the Guru, teacher of the teachers. He is the Supreme Guru. Who is the Supreme Guru? He who can tell us. So in our mythology, especially Vishnu Purana, there is a definition of this, what is called Bhagavan. He who has got 6 qualities. What are they? Aishwarya, Dharma, Yasha, Shri, Gnana, and Vairagya. He is called Bhagavan. Dhanavan. Van means one who possesses. One who is possessed of dhana is called Dhanavan. One who is possessed of Gnana is called Gnanavan. So, one who is possessing in 100%, very naturally, what? Aishwarya. All the wealth in this world, all the glory in this world, Dharma is the very embodiment of Dharma. Yasha, wherever there is a name and fame, it belongs to him. Sri, as we were studying in the Sri Suktam, that Sri means the Divine Mother. And he is manifesting in Sri, wherever knowledge is there, and wherever there is detachment, dispassion, that is Vairagya. He who has got all these six, he is called Bhagavan. He is the lordliness, dharma, fame, prosperity, wisdom, and renunciation. Then, Divya Brahmapuri. It means, Divya means shining. The Devas. Deva is another name for Indriyas, because they are the lights. They shine. The eye lights up an object. This is a table. This is a human being. This is a tree. This is a mosquito, etc. So that is why, as if somebody is throwing light, all the five sense organs are lights. Similarly, our hands, etc. are also lights, and hence this body is called Divya, Brahmapuri. Upanishads are very fond of using, instead of saying Sarira, Brahmapura. Why? Because God can be realized here. In fact, God is only manifesting as body and mind, and especially in the human body, God can be realized. If God can be realized, then what about other things, smaller things, all the best things in this world? That is why Swami Vivekananda's clarion call, Shrunvantu Vishwaye Amrutasya Putraha. So, how did the sense organs start functioning? How were they installed in man? How do they project the sense world? How do they function? Of whom do they perform the manifestation? And what this manifestation is in reality. Remember, Kena Upanishad exactly starts with Om Kene Shitam Patati Preshitam Manaha Kena Pranaha Prathamaha Praiti Yukta. By whom, willed and directed, does the mind light on its subjects? By whom commanded does the prana the first move? By whose will do men speak this speech? What intelligence directs the eye and the ear, etc., etc. And then also the answer given in the very second mantra of Kena Upanishad, Shrotrasya Shrotram, Manaso Mano, Yat Vachoha Vacham, Savu Pranasya Pranaha, Chakshusha Chakshuhu, Atimucha Dhiraha, Preti Asmat Lokat, Amrutaha Bhavanti. This is exactly what the Shaunaka was getting the answer. It is the ear of ear, mind of the mind, tongue of the tongue, and also life of the life, and eye of the eye. Being disabused of the false notion, the wise, having left this body, they become one with Brahman and become immortal. This is just for a reference. And the answer is same. Since we have dealt with it, I hope you remember it. So, Tasmai, having put this question to that disciple who put this kind of question, that is Shaunaka, Sa means Vippalada Rishi, Hovacha, Ha Uvacha, he said, Brahmavidyam Varishtam. I will teach you that Brahmavidya. Very briefly, Prano Hesha Atma, Atmano Mahima Babhuva, Devanam Ayuhu. Pranaha Esha Atma. Atma is manifesting as Prana, and it is the glory of the Atman, and in the Prana is manifesting in the form of all the sense organs, etc. So that is the answer. It is Brahman. Pointed out the Brahman. You do not exist. Everything is Brahman. We will discuss it further because, as I said, it is very enjoyable, the very essence of the Brahmavidya. We will talk about it in our future classes. Om Jananim Sharadam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Saritva Pranamami Muhur Muhuhu. May Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, and Swami Vivekananda bless us all with bhakti. Jai Ramakrishna.